So I'm going to share with you one of my new artistic endeavours. It's called a Punk's Tarot. I was given the gift of tarot by a feral punk magic band that I was jamming with called Order of Chaos. And ever since then I've been practicing the tarot. And I finally got to the point of designing my own tarot deck, which is called a Punk's Tarot. And I'll go through and I'll tell you the story of each card of the major arcana I've created, which involves different punks. And I hope you enjoy. This first card is the back image for the whole deck. It's the Eye of Horus, which is symbolic of psychic power and the mysteries. It's on a pyramid, which is one of the most ancient symbols for the mysteries. And so I thought that would be a fitting symbol to place on the back of the pack, especially since it's one of the images that I have from an amazing psychedelic experience that was formative in my life at this point. So all tarot packs begin with the major arcana 0, which is the Fool. And the tarot is the Fool's journey. And it's the Fool's journey to the end of the spiritual path. But my particular Fool is related to, again, to the Eye of Horus that I just showed you. This was another psychedelic experience with a punk friend of mine who was into neo-shamanism, and he was teaching me about faith and taking the leap into the patch of long grass when you're totally in another dimension, going through the hedge. So the next card is the Magician. It's the number 1 card, and for the number 1 I chose that world famous punk Marilyn Manson. I tend to believe in Marilyn as Marilyn the Magician, from the old religion, the Arthurian mythos. And on the table in front of him, the magician has the 4 suits that I've replaced with punk iconography. Mics instead of wands, cups, picks instead of swords, and records instead of discs. The second arcana, arcana 2, is the High Priestess. And in my punk pack I based the archetype of the High Priestess on an amazing ex-girlfriend of mine who went by the name of Dana or Diana. Diana is the Roman moon goddess, and Dana is the Irish earth goddess. And they're both extremely powerful female archetypes that I felt was suited to the High Priestess. And she's sitting on a chair outside under the full moon with a Celtic Triskelion floating up in the air beside her. Arcana number 3 in my Punk's Tarot deck is the Empress, and for the Empress, I've gone basically entirely symbolic with a Venus symbol superimposed on the star Venus itself and an eye in the middle of the Venus symbol. And this is basically the traditional symbology of the Empress all compressed into one piece of art. This one could probably do with a bit more work. The next is Arcana 4, the Emperor, the balance of the polarity with the previous feminine cards. The Emperor symbolises male power and dominion, and for this I've chosen to show a punk enthroned on his stage with the mic in hand, and he's down there getting personal with the crowd. He's got them in the palm of his hand really, and he's a classic hardcore punk with a mohawk and the ever supportive drummer in the background. So instead of the Emperor's stave of authority, this punk has a mic, and he lays down the law on the mic through the big speaker stacks to the crowd. Here the fifth arcana is the Hierophant, or otherwise known as the High Priest. And the High Priest is symbolic of the patriarchy and patriarchal religion. So here I've got a mystic punk feral, again sitting in his throne, which happens to be just a pretty cushy armchair, and he's getting down on the mic again, probably doing a spoken word to the devoted crew, and the mic has the symbology of the High Priest on it, plus he's surrounded by 4 punks in the guise of the 4 archangels or the 4 elementals. Here is Arcana number 6, the Lovers. For this card I chose a similar design to the traditional tarot, except as is the theme with this one, all transferred over to punk. So you've got a couple of really cool androgynous, identical appearing punks, though one is definitely male and one is definitely female, and they're holding hands. They've got big smiles on their faces on the street, on the sidewalk, under a street sign that could be selling anything. It could be a chemist, it could be a bottle-o, it could be a pawn shop, it could be anything, but they're all symbolic of love. Arcana number 7 is the Chariot, and for the Chariot I've chosen a biker punk, and he's roaring down the highway, big long dreadlocks streaming out behind him, displaying the classic energy and dynamism associated with the Chariot. He's on a motorbike instead of the usual 4-wheeled old-fashioned chariot, because there are a lot of punk bikers and I think they deserve a mention. He's coming flying out of the setting sun into the future. Arcana number 8 in my punk pack is the card Strength. So I've based Strength on a famous tattooed strongman, Hafthor the Mountain, and Hafthor is in the picture as picking up another world-breaking record. He's been strongest man in the world, and I thought he was a great example of legendary punk strength, Thor's strength. He runs Thor's gym, and Thor is a god of strength. So he's there doing a big lift. Arcana number 9 is the Hermit, and I've gone a tiny bit against tradition in this one, doing the Hermit as a mohawked punk up on stage, so you can't really see the crowd, but the spotlights are behind the punk, shining the light in front of him, which is what is usual with the Hermit archetype. But instead of a staff, he's got the microphone stand, and instead of the lantern actually in his hand, he's got a mic. But he's got the big spotlights coming behind him, illuminating far into the distance. And while he may have a huge crowd in front of him, when he's on stage, he's really alone. He has to get up there alone. The Wheel of Fortune is the 10th arcana in my punk pack, and for the usual 4 angels around the Wheel of Fortune in the middle, with the letters of tarot and the letters of the Tetragrammaton, the formula of God, written on it. For the 4 angels around this Wheel of Fortune, I've done 4 different punks with 4 different types of hairstyles and 4 different looks that are similar to the archetypal animals and figures of these 4 elemental archangels that go around the traditional Wheel of Fortune. And I've done them sitting in a park, reading their books, learning about mystic knowledge to increase their fortune. Tarot card 11 of a punk's tarot is the card Justice, and this one is pretty radical. I've done a punk woman. Instead of the usual justice figure, instead of a sword, she's carrying the switchblade, and in her hand she's got a little set of scales. She's sitting on the couch at home, and if anyone knows this kind of punk chick, what she's usually got in scales is drugs. So this is all to do with the drug war as well, and is there true justice in the drug war, and where is it from? And brings to mind all these questions about justice and anarchy. Anarchy being without ruler. Is that true justice? Okay, a punk's tarot major arcana number 12 is the Hanged Man, and the Hanged Man is a very subtle card. It's kind of spiritual. This one has a punk hanging off the cactus, San Pedro cactus. It's in a T shape, which is the Tor cross or St. Peter's cross. So St. Pedro is also psychedelic, and the punk's having a psychedelic experience. He's got a glowing aura, and he's hanging off this San Pedro out in the desert, doing a handstand upside down. And the Hanged Man is about sacrifice and spiritual independence, and these are all part of punk culture in its essence. A punk's tarot arcana 13, magic 13 I'd say, rather than the stereotypical superstitious unlucky 13. Anyway, the 13th card is Death. And for this card I've got a punk with his face half decayed, and he's like a soldier. He's a soldier of the drug war. He's carrying a huge syringe dripping blood, and he looks like a zombie. And this is all about change and the nature of impermanence connected with the punk culture. Live fast, die young, and leave a good looking corpse. To counterpoint the rather severe nature of Arcana 13, the Death Tarot, is Arcana 14 in the Punk Tarot deck, called Temperance. And here we have like a surf punk, and he's got 2 cups in his hand, and he's mixing water with wine. And this demonstrates having balance, moderation, and humility, care in your life. He's kind of androgynous. He's going to the beach. He's keeping fit, you know, and he's not getting too wasted, but he's still a punk. So that's why he's the Temperance punk. So Arcana 15 is that spooky tarot card everyone dreads getting, the Devil. And for this, the Devil card, I chose an actual punk who did body modification to create himself into a devil, called the Enigma. He also has green tattoos with jigsaw puzzle pattern all over his body. And here in this card you can see him. He's standing on the black cube that signifies half in and half out of reality, and he has the male and female demonic punks with snake tongues chained to his pedestal, and he's looking at them with one eye, which is also symbolic of the Devil card, the eye. The Punk Tarot Major Arcana 16, the Tower, I've chosen an actual world-shaking tower collapse event, the Twin Towers, as the basis for this card. So here you have the Twin Towers just after they've been struck by the planes, and they're bursting flame, and the tower symbolises radical discontinuity, and it's the precursor to enlightenment and awakenment, where the facades crumble and you're left with the base reality that we're all just people on the earth. Arcana 17, the Star, is connected with healing and faith and hope and optimism. And in the center of my Punk Tarot version of the Star, I have the Star of Ishtar, an ancient Babylonian goddess of Venus. And there's also the waterhole up on the north coast of New South Wales called Tahuti, and the woman in the waterhole is pouring water from 2 jugs. And Tahuti is another name for Thoth, the ancient Egyptian god of magic, and who's credited with the tarot. Arcana 18 in a Punk's Tarot is the Moon. Now the Moon can be one of the most ill-omened tarot cards, can symbolise all the worst things about the unconscious and darkness. And in this card I've got these kind of strange lighthouses next to a moon, and there's a woman in the water, and she's half in, half out of the water, and her lower half under the water, she's actually a mermaid staring up at the moon with her two animals. One's a big wolf and the other one's a red dog. And it's all kind of spooky and moonlit. Arcana 19 is a bit of a better omen than the moon. It's the sun, and it symbolises all the good, simple things in life. And this particular sun tarot card I've done representing the sun god, and he looks like the sun on the back of Henry Rollins' Search and Destroy, except he's kind of a happy sun sticking out his tongue. And there's two punk twin brothers, and they're doing a fist bump in front of a pyramid, and they're waving their arms in the air, and they're kind of just in their shorts. They look like they could be in a mosh pit or dancing at a techno party, or they just look like they're having fun in the sun, and they're really good buddies as well as being twins. Tarot Arcana 20 is the Judgment, and in the traditional Judgment there's an angel overseeing the rapture of the last rapture where all the dead come back to life. But in my particular Judgment, there's a punk on stage. He's just got a really big head, and he's got the speaker stacks behind him, and he's giving a thumbs up to the crowd, and instead of a trumpet he's got a mic blasting, and he's blasting out the speakers, a punk song. And in front of him, instead of the rapturous dead, he's got punks in a mosh pit, and they're dancing around and they're waving their hands, and they really enjoy it as well. And instead of the Christian symbolism of the red flag, there's an anarchy flag. And it's not really as judgmental, but everyone gets the thumbs up from the punk angel. So the final Major Arcana 21, the World, is depicting a punk rock star, punk rock goddess, headbanging and singing on the mic, and she's got her fist up, she's doing a fist pump, and she's surrounded by an Ouroboros, a serpent eating its own tail. It's red. It's all very energetic and shows like you can rock the world. And there's the 4 punk angels around her with their different elemental associations. And this is the final card in my A Punk's Tarot Major Arcana. And it's a good one to end on. It's really got a lot of power and finality as well. So there's a taster of my idea for a new tarot deck, A Punk's Tarot. This final card is just the beginning of the suits with Ace of Wands that I'm calling Ace of Mics. I'm doing mics, cups, picks instead of swords, and discs as records for the suits. And this will be another labour of love, and it was good to share this art with you so far. Hopefully there'll be more to come.